Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. So glad you're around today. Happy Monday, by the way, to all of you. The 22nd of August already. Things are heating up in our world. A lot of things to do, a lot of things to say. The podcast today and the live stream is actually an interview that I did on Saturday. Did it with Lotti, Knowles, and Melanie Rothschild, and it's just great. I think you're going to love this. They've put together a film festival for ordinary people like me and you and just ordinary folks, maybe with fancy cameras. I have a fancy camera in my studio. Maybe though somebody with just like an iPhone or just sort of a normal bit of filming capacity. A 3-minute or shorter film festival. Okay, see, here's the thing. Melanie and Lotti have started this effort called One Dem Minute. It's a great little pun. I love it. And as a part of that effort, they want some new messaging. They realize that a lot of messaging that goes out in our world, political messaging and otherwise, is really reinforcing things that aren't always true, not saying things that should be said, and the need for new ways of communicating, but not just from the media systems and the media professionals, from ordinary people. How do we say things to each other? How do we communicate to each other to move our common care for democracy or for kindness or for goodness, for civic life that cares about the common good? How do we move that forward? Well, they live out in LA, both of them, not together or anything, but they live out in LA area and they know films and they know people that make movies. And they said, movies impact people. Short ones, long ones, they really do. So they came up with this idea just months ago. You'll hear it in the interview. It's a fabulous interview about this project. And they decided that they were going to put together a film festival for ordinary people to submit films. Such a great idea. All right, so here's that interview. And I'm going to start by showing you the lead-in YouTube video that they made for this little 1-minute trailer for this project that they're starting, the One Dem Minute, 3-minute film festival. So don't want to confuse you. The films don't have to be 1 minute. One Dem Minute is the name of the organization. It can be 3 minutes long. And there'll even be an example of one of the films, something like it that you could do if you're thinking about this. So you'll enjoy the conversation. It's so important. It's important because we're all learning how to communicate. We talk a lot about that, what we need to communicate, as well as maybe get your wheels spinning. But here's the thing. You got to spin those wheels in a hurry because submissions are due middle of September. So time is ticking, friends. Time is ticking on this. And Vote Common Good is so proud to be a part of this. We plan a little submission of our own. So join us, would you, in a submission? And here's my conversation then with Melanie and Lotti, and I think you're just going to love it. So enjoy your time inside this conversation for the next hour. Melanie and Lotti, it is so good to talk to you about the One Dem Minute Film Festival. Super excited about this. We saw the video. It looks amazing. Melanie, tell us about how this came about. How did you decide, hey, you know what we need to do in this moment is be sure that we put together a film festival that people can share their ideas and be creative with?
I guess the way a lot of things come about, it started with frustration, like deep frustration. And I felt very frustrated because I would hear people in casual settings, at a barbecue, standing in line at the market, saying things that were untrue, that were just sort of off the cuff. They were just repeating it. Everybody knows Republicans are better with the economy. nobody really knows what's going on with the environment. Even the scientists argue about it, you know,
Yeah.
and kind of drove me crazy. And I wanted to be able to say, no, but this, but that. But where do you start? You know, like how far back do
Yeah.
you start? And what if it's a casual setting? And I met Lotti, and she had similar feelings, and she had some, you know, video chops, and we had talked about, well, maybe we should make some videos. And in trying to talk about, well, what should that video look like, and talking to other people about it, I started to see that there were a lot of different opinions. And I realized maybe there isn't just like one way to answer some of these things. And we were just talking about all these different ideas. And at some point I said, like, well, maybe we should just have a film festival and just have a bunch of different ways of doing it.
Nice.
And I think that kind of was the first moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're recording this, you know, it's the middle of August. When did you have this idea? When did this moment, hey, maybe we should just have a film festival? When did that come to you?
Very recently.
Not early, not long enough ago, but it arrived when it arrived.
Yeah.
But it was like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that?
No, not even. 3 months would have given us a leisurely timetable, actually, to put it together. So it was, I would say, about a month and a half.
Okay.
And so, yeah. And so we, you know, started strategizing. My husband came in on it, another cohort, a friend of mine from high school who I work with in another chapter of Swing Left. So Melanie and I, just to set a little stage, we met in the San Gabriel Valley chapter of Swing Left, where we're both board members, and we were put together just about a year ago. And we've become fast friends in that time. We are in charge of events and programming and that sort of thing, and had done some other interesting things. And then I founded another chapter recently, a little closer to where I live, which is Burbank and East Valley in Los Angeles. And a friend of mine from high school who was getting involved with that was also coming to me talking about videos. And so I thought, okay, I've got both of these. And so when Melanie suggested the film festival, I said, okay, let's just put all of us together in this team. And so we just kind of had to squish what I would say would normally, from my past experience on projects like this, be like 3 to 6 months of strategy preparation, kind of building up the word. We've had to just condense that all very quickly into a month and a half. And thankfully, we've been getting some traction and momentum, but we always are, you know, we're not sleeping a lot in terms of, you know, just trying to get the word out as quickly as possible. So
have you had a chance to see any of the submissions yet of what people are putting together?
Yes, we have one, but we can't talk. Yeah, we saw our first one. We can't talk too much about it, but we've been also hearing from a lot of people we know, or through friends of friends, oh, so-and-so wants to do this. And, you know, one friend of my mom's is like, oh, I just got it out to the folk music community in the Bay Area. And
my goodness,
they're interested in doing, so it's going to take on a very interesting life in terms of, but that's what we want. We want a lot of different flavors, different styles, different voices, you know,
as many as possible. In fact, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and she was telling me about a conversation she'd had with her nephew, and about a realization he'd had actually about abortion, and when in his life it was so critical for him that he had access to that. And I think there was a shocking moment for him when he saw that decision overturned, and how that would have impacted his life. And she was telling me about this phone conversation she'd had with him. And I said, can you recreate that phone conversation, the two of you on Zoom? Because that would be perfect. And she thought, oh my gosh, like that would be amazing. So I think we're trying to turn people who don't necessarily see themselves as like filmmakers. We're not looking for polish. We're looking for just that moment when people come together and have a realization.
Yeah, like an aha moment, you know?
How will people see these films? So they're going to submit them. They're due by the 6th of September. So that's coming just after Labor Day for people that don't keep track of their calendars. So that's, feeling like it's on its way. Then when will people have a chance to see these films? I know the details are on the website and people should go to ondemminute.com. But tell us about how people will experience these.
Well, we're going to have a small local event to show the finalists here in Los Angeles. Great. But the main event will be an online Zoom event on September 18th. And the tickets will be available for that. By the way, I should just say that all of the ticket sales and the submission fees are made in the form of donations to Swing Left and the high impact races that have been vetted as winnable for Democrats, but they need our support in order to win them. And so there'll be an online event. As many people as want to can join that. We'll show the finalists. We'll have awards given out by the judges. And then after September 18th, we will be having the videos shared, so some finalists and also some winners, all the winners, shared on some high traffic social media accounts, and with our partners organization, Civic Power of Change. They will be pairing some of the winning content with local and national campaigns that they're working on around the country. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. How many submissions do you hope to get? How many finalists, winners will there be? What's sort of the scale of
it? We have zero idea.
Yeah, first year.
Zero idea. We'll have to let you know about that. Do you have
a little dream? Do you have a dream in your mind? Are you like, hey, we'd love to have 20 or 50 or 100 or 300?
If we get at least, let's say, 50 to 100 submissions, we will consider the first year a success.
Oh my!
Beyond that is gravy, And so we have two really cool judges who have committed now to be our finalist judges, but we might add some more high-profile people if we get a ton of submissions. And like Melanie said, it's not long till the deadline to submit. But again, if somebody is a professional and they want to do something very professional looking in that time, that's fine. But something with a great idea that's fun and funny could be shot on somebody's iPhone in a day and submitted and might be a winner. It all just depends on how that message is coming across and what they have to say.
Well, I think it's... Go ahead, Melanie.
I was just going to say, we put an inspirations page on our website so that people could just go look through some different content. Some of it is very kind of lights, camera, action, and all the way to just one guy sitting in his car talking on his cell phone, and which I think is terrific. So,
and the branding says this, but these are short pieces, right? To just sort of remind people if they're thinking about it. You're not asking people to make 30-minute, hour-long, 2-hour-long full films.
Under 3 minutes. And that's part of the difference in the flavor, because some people that you talk to say, 30 seconds online is a lifetime. But then there are other people who make content who feel like they kind of need to warm up and they want to set a mood. And it's just different. It's just because this is such a big country.
That's right.
And different things speak to people in different ways. And I think that was our realization.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, they're all manner of time. People watch things. Some people watch 2-hour things online. Some people watch 20-second things online and have a preference. So I hope people don't feel like there's a magic minute that you need to get to. And the clever name, One Dem Minute, as your effort and organization, doesn't mean these are 1 minute long, right? They can be under 3 minutes. So
right.
One Dem Minute is a separate fun name to the film festival, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The pun. We like. I think, Doug, you and I are both fans of puns. Perhaps Melanie is too.
I love them. Well, all people with senses of humor love puns, I think.
I know.
Well, what I think is great about this, and I'm so glad you're doing it, is that all manner of communication works for people. And I feel like the personal nature of this can really go a long way. So if people are thinking about encouraging a friend or doing a film themselves, I hope they know just how much authority and equity people put in hearing and seeing normal people do things. That is a part of the political conversation that we often don't see and we often don't get access to, right? You might get access to somebody doing a social media post or I don't know, something else, or interacting with a friend, but just watching an ordinary person, more like you than not, offer something to the world and give it out into the world, that really goes a long way. So if people are thinking about this, I hope they'll consider the fact this is a chance for them to express themselves. Not a big organization, not a particular candidate. So if there's ideas that you think, hey, here's an idea that people might benefit from reflecting on. You know, Melanie, at the beginning, you said you hear these colloquialisms that people take as sort of folk truth that often, you know, aren't true, that, you know, Democrats can't seem to handle international affairs or the economy, or only people of faith vote for Republicans, or, you know, all this kind of stuff. Or that, you know, Democrats want to defund the military and the police and just all manner of things, which there might be somebody that holds all that stuff, right? But not everybody.
Fact, we, you know, talk about this as being the point of these short pieces to refute these extreme talking points. Mm-hmm. And we divide as sort of a way to give people starting points. We divide the videos that we're looking for into 7 different categories, which are the environment, the economy, abortion. Lotti, you might have to help me.
Immigration,
voter disengagement, the Democratic Party, and then we just have a wild card category. But in each of those categories, we've tried to give a few prompts, things that you hear people say when you're standing online in the market. You know, like the things I said before to you. You know, illegal immigrants are coming in all over the place, and they're voting too.
Yeah.
You know, just
catchphrases. Yeah, catchphrases like the invasion at the southern border, you know, these kind of things, you know, or even, well, both parties are the same. Why should I bother voting? You know, and because that's the thing is it's a lot of sort of the right-wing talking points that we want to refute, but sometimes they're also things that have just kind of slipped into the ether of people who are liberal, but you know, they've internalized some messaging that we don't think is true, and a lot of people don't think is true. And like you said, Doug, if they hear it from somebody who's not like Nancy Pelosi, you know, like great for her to give us a message. But if it's somebody that you're like, oh, that's just, you know, a 25-year-old like me or a 55-year-old like me, you know, it might resonate more.
Yeah.
And I think you know, we felt a concern that when people hear these tropes, and if they don't know how to answer them, it's easy to start to think like, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe that's true. I don't really know what to say to that. Yep. So this is just kind of friends that you don't really know yet, but in some way they're your friends, and they are coming on board with some answers for you so that you can say, oh, yeah, that's right. Because I think there's a tendency, at least I know there is for me, when I hear some of these things, to just kind of flood and freeze. You know, I get so upset when I hear it, and I just don't know where to start. And so I think we're really hoping that people can engage with some of this content and feel more assured to not let some of this noise interfere with their thinking.
Yeah. Just a couple more details about it. Are any rules people should be aware of, like using copyrighted material, say from another film or some other thing? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And what about pieces that people have put together for other purposes? Can they repurpose something for this work, or would you like it all to be new? How are you handling that?
Sure. So I can take that one. On our submissions page of our website, and also on the Film Freeway portal, which is a submission portal for that a bunch of different film festivals use, and so we're using that too. It'll talk about all of these things in detail. But for example, no hate speech, no, extreme violence, no nudity or sexual content. This needs to be able to play in front of a wide audience. We're not going to rule out profanity, but it may need to be bleeped when it's shown at the event, or being repurposed if it's repurposed for a campaign, if it's selected. We don't mind if it was created. In fact, the first submission we got was clearly made for something else in particular, but it fits with what we're doing. That's okay, as long as, sort of along the line of the copyright, which I'll get to, as long as it's not something where it's already been branded so heavily by a different organization that they would be upset if that content was repurposed, or if it was kind of claimed by another entity as their intellectual property at that point. But yes, everything needs to be original. Like if you want to use music, do original, or go to one of the royalty-free music sites. Like I think YouTube Commons is Creative Commons. I think on YouTube has a library. There's some others out there. But yes, if you're using any kind of popular music, clips from movies, there's a fine line of free speech somewhere in there about parody and being able to use stuff. So look up the rules and we'll vet it with our legal team. But otherwise, you have to prove to us that Bruce Springsteen said, yes, they can use this for this purpose.
It's funny you asked that, because that was one of the specifics I was going to go after.
And we have another little specific thing that's a new thing that just came about that I'll mention, because I think we're very excited about it. So there was a video. I think we had each been affected by different videos that we'd seen over the years throughout different campaigns, and there was one that I had adored. It was made during the 2020 presidential campaign. And it was made by a woman named Julie Larson, who's a writer and an actress. And I don't know if I should tell you about it, or just, it's on our inspirations page. Maybe people can go see it. She's basically saying to people, you're not crazy about Biden. He's not the perfect candidate for you. You know what, honey? This is the last bus that's coming through that'll take you to town, and you get on this bus if you want to go to town. That's a really, I don't know if I did her justice.
Well, what we'll do is, since we're pre-recording this, we will show that video. We'll
show that's great.
Right now.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Julie Larson, and this is Anna. She's my very best friend in the whole world during quarantine, and also my yard statue. It gets kind of lonely during a quarantine, and my husband's kind of tired of talking to me. And we're here to throw our full weight behind Joe Biden for President of the United States. That's 160 pounds for me. That's a lot of weight, huh, Anna? I have to tell you, Anna was originally a Bernie supporter, and quite an ardent one. Right, Anna? Pretty disappointing that he didn't win. I always loved Joe Biden. The only burn I ever felt was when I peed in late 1988 and into the beginning of 1989. And that was painful. So I know what it feels like to hurt. But here we are, election year. And we talked a lot, and we kind of came to, this isn't an election about how aggressively we're going to face, like, say, global warming. It's an election about whether there is global warming. We think there is. So does Joe Biden. I think about you millennials with the 9/11 and then the big financial crash and then a pandemic and an even bigger financial crash, maybe the biggest one of all time. And I worry so much. And I want you to have a good future. For you guys, I have a little meditation that I think might help. Close your eyes, every one of you. Just close your eyes. I want you to picture yourself walking in a desert. You've been walking and walking for over a week now. You've been out of food for 4 days, out of water for 2. The sun is beating down on you. It's 115 degrees. You haven't seen one car. But now, in the distance, you see a Dodge Caravan. Not your favorite car, but it's a car. And it's slowing down as it gets toward you. You can see in the driver's seat there's a, what I would call very handsome man. Older, feathered white hair and big teeth and aviator sunglasses. And he stops the car. And he opens the window. And you hear Barry White blaring out of the car. And you hate Barry White. But it's a car and it's going your way. The old guy you don't prefer says, "Hey kid, you need a ride?" I want you to jump into that fucking car. Just jump in, because it's your only chance. There's no more cars coming. I swear to Christ. You're going back to town, man. And you're going to get a seat at the table and get to bring up the things that are important to you. But for now, you still have to deal with our generation because we're still here. But just know, we'll all be dead in 20 years or so. And then you'll be in charge. And somebody will be judging your music. That's how it goes. I don't even wear pants with buttons. It's too uncomfortable. I feel a change, something moving. I'm on my way out. Vote for Biden. 2020. It's an emergency. You know what? Call me bi-curious. But I think we're going to find we have more in common than you think. Hi, bird. It's a bird. And more than I can stand. Oh, well, babe. How can I explain all the things I feel? You've given me so much. Girl, you're so unreal still. I keep loving you more and more each time. Girl, what am I gonna do? Cause you're blowing my mind.
We contacted Julie and said, do you want to, we're doing this and we love you and we're putting you on our inspiration page. So she offered to do a coaching session with the first 10 people who asked for it. And she'll go over people's scripts with them, their video, their content, whatever it is, to just help them in whatever way they can use, to maybe shore something up. Which were 10,
20-minute sessions, if that makes sense. And she's written for The Drew Carey Show, Dharma and Greg. She's been involved with Whose Line Is It Anyway? She wrote for one of Chelsea Handler's shows. So she's, a big deal. And she knows how to craft a story and a joke. And
talented.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing that we feel we can offer people who, would like to go over their content.
And if someone just goes to the website, they can find out how to access that coaching from her, or how does someone find that out?
It's all brand new. So maybe let's say that website will be updated by, I don't know, at the end of the week.
Well, actually, I will have it updated by the time this airs, I would say.
Great. So there'll be a chance.
Like this weekend, I'll get it
a little free coaching, even if it leads to a really great film. All right. Okay. So I think we got it. People can go to One Dem Minute. They can find this. They can also go on YouTube, a great YouTube channel, and that's where you'll find the video that you saw at the start of this conversation. Now, Lotti and Melanie, I want to ask you about each of you and who you are and the people that have brought this about. It could be easy for someone to think, hearing what you described earlier, Lotti, that living in the San Gabriel area of swing left, and then you mentioned Burbank and out there in LA. There's a lot of people that think, okay, like the West Coast sort of Southern California, Hollywood space, that's just totally liberal democratic land. That's not entirely true, though, is it? I mean, nowhere in this country, even when you talk about 40, 60, 70, 80% of something, our country is big and diverse, and it's also more complex in all the places than we think than we think it is. Do either of you talk a little bit about what motivates the two of you living out in those spaces? You know, that's your world, to be worried about. I mean, other than, of course, you care about democracy and you want the United States to last, and Donald Trump is a unique threat to the well-being of this country, everyone who lives in it, this planet, and everyone who lives on it. But short of that, what motivates the two of you to be, and what's your own backgrounds, and what did you bring to all of this that was like, oh, I'm not only going to give a little time, I'm going to just organize like crazy. Like what's been your background, and how do you spend your days?
How long is this show?
I know. I was going to say, well, why don't we each but Melanie, why don't you start, since you have the main screen? Oh, she did. But take it back to Melanie. Melanie, why don't we each answer that in a little bit of our own way, and as concisely as possible?
Yeah. All right. So I'll try to do this really fast. I'm from LA. I grew up in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, for people who know what the Valley is.
Really? And so you are of the age where you were a Valley girl. Like that would have been...
absolutely. And I own that, and that is very much, for sure.
Have you ever said "gag me with a spoon," or was that just Valley girl
I was
lore?
Always an outsider, even then.
All right. Even then, you weren't that girl.
But I grew up, I grew up my family was modest means. My father worked for the state of California. He was an inspector for the freeway department. And, I think that I grew up in the 60s, so there was a lot of opportunity to see politics that was going on. And I think for me, the takeaway message, if I had to just put one word about what my political, orientation is, I think it is about empathy. And I think that's the one word, and so I think that things I do, that's what my thinking is. I think as a parent, that was the thing I tried to get across to my kids. That was really kind of maybe the one most important thing I wanted to feel like they grew up with, is that understanding, that vision, hopefully. And then in terms of putting it out there, I'm an artist. I've managed to kind of scrape out a living as an artist, doing some different kinds of things at different times in my life. And I think a really nice piece of that is just sort of, I'm used to kind of pursuing wacky things that occur to me, and not caring that much about what people think, which has taken me a long time to get to. And the older I am, the more comfortability I have with just saying let's do this. And if it works, that'll be great. And if not, okay.
No, then we'll do the next thing. All right. So I want to drill down a little bit on that, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And I use that phrase in jest because I can't stand that phrase when people say it. So we'll circle back, drill down on that. California, when you were growing up in the 1960s, that part of California, even through the 70s, it's not even how people think about it now, even in their caricature, that it's just left-leaning and everything. I mean, this is the world of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, and still that part of California. Those parts of California, where McCarthy and Devin Nunes and hardcore right are in that, sometimes the middle part of California. It was a complicated political situation in the 60s and 70s. Were you politically smart and engaged in your teenage years and young adult years, or did you sort of do art and try to be above all that? How did you experience all of that going on?
I was paying attention. I was paying attention. I did volunteering when I was a teenager. We used to go, they'd take a carload of kids to the beach. We did something called bird dogging, which is the kids would go out and try to find people sitting on the beach who hadn't registered to vote yet. And then we'd go get one of the registrars to come over and register them. So, it was always on my radar. It wasn't my main focus, I don't think. But I was paying attention. I mean, I would say in the 60s, it was kind of hard not to be paying attention.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like now, right? But that's what I was wanting to get to is then there's a period in the 70s and 80s where America was in a weird space. I was sort of coming of age in the late 70s and 80s. And I don't know, it felt like political tumult wasn't what was in the air. It felt like that in the 60s, at least I remember. And now, I mean, we're in the most bizarre political period. What were you up to in the 80s and 90s and all of that? Were you also politically engaged into the late 2020s sort of just jet fuel you back into all this?
I think probably late 80s and 90s, Clinton was in office in the 90s. I once heard Hillary Clinton say, what was it you didn't like about the 90s? Was it the peace or the prosperity? So
That's a good line.
I think, I had my kids in 1989. I have twins, so that's why I use the plural. And so, I was busy with my family. I was busy working on my career. It wasn't as much of a focus. I mean, there just are limited hours.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt, and then when my kids left, I had more time to think about that again. And there's no doubt that 2016 really galvanized me. And the way I feel, frankly, is, my father-in-law, they're both World War II veterans. They enlisted as teenagers. And I kind of feel like that mantle is being passed to me.
Yeah, it's a public service effort for you in that way, right? Like the way that they offered themselves to the service of the country.
Yeah, it's just my turn to try to, pitch my hay that this democracy is going to continue for my kids and everybody else.
Yeah, I've reflected a lot on this oath that the president takes, and maybe other people take this exact one, where they say, you will defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic, right? And that last little line is always, I don't know, just seemed like.
How much foresight those forefathers had.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lotti, how about you? Where did you grow up and what got you into all this?
1970, I am born.
Okay.
Yeah, how to condense. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Palo Alto, California, up in the Bay Area, before it was a super uber wealthy tech capital of the world.
Stanford parents or no?
No, my parents are both Missourians. My mom grew up in St. Louis. She's the first person in her family to go to college. Her parents were very poor factory workers who made good by being able to scrape enough money together to buy a grocery store on the north side of St. Louis. And my grandfather on that side was a union organizer in the 20s and 30s before my mom was born, and got my grandma fired from one of her factory jobs when he went and tried to unionize, and got his head split open by billy clubs by the police apparently several times. So I've got that in that side of the family. Then my dad's side is from southern Missouri and Kansas City area, and I spent a lot of time there growing up. So I was growing up in this very hippie environment of the Bay Area. I mean, my parents were kind of shocked. They had lived, their lives in Missouri. Then they lived for maybe 5 years in Michigan, came to California when things were just exploding. We had a Presbyterian church right next door to our house. That was one night one of our dogs was killed by traffic coming to a Joan Baez concert and rally at that church, for Yeah, I'm sure it was a Vietnam
Vietnam
thing.
anti-war.
I know they housed El Salvadoran refugees, and they were helping veterans, but also helping people avoid the war. I mean, they were involved in a ton of stuff. So there was just kind of in the ether when I was growing up there, all of this happening. But then I'd be put on a plane and shipped off to Kansas City, Missouri, and Independence, Missouri every summer. And I would have this completely other experience.
Wow.
And so I have luckily sort of a dual perspective. I mean, most of my dad's family, they were diehard Democrats, but there was a lot of racism, which I was not used to. My parents were very much about empathy and, treat people equally. And I was going to this hippie school that was very diverse at first Catholic school, but then I didn't thrive there. So I moved to a hippie school. But yeah, my parents always kind of taught me the importance of being informed, wanting to make an impact on your world. My dad was a scientist, and he was very curious about things, but very also, interested in just how to move the world into an age of enlightenment in general. And so I started really getting political kind of towards the end of high school. And I would just like to say, for the Bernie fans out there, let me tell you how I feel your pain, because Jesse Jackson was my guy in 1988, and I campaigned for him. And then by the time I turned 18, he did not win the Democratic nomination, but I got out there and I voted for Dukakis. Who remembers Dukakis? Not many people. But let me say, I got out there and voted for him. Yeah. So then, I've stayed political off and on. I was living in Chicago for 12 years for college and in my 20s and early 30s. And I volunteered at the Democratic National Convention in 1996. I then got really, really involved in 2008. Because I was actually just as depressed at the end of the George W. Bush administration, almost as I was in Trump's time. I felt like there were a lot of things happening then that were incredibly unethical, and like incredible lies that were being told, incredible dumbing down of the conversation. And so I went to Florida to stay with my in-laws to campaign for Obama, which I did for Hillary in 2016. So then kind of present day was, I fell into that trap during the Obama years of thinking, oh, wow, the world is finally really getting better and becoming the world we want it to be. Mm-hmm. And Trump's election knocked me on my butt. And I spent some time very depressed. I did go to the Women's March and all that, but Swing Left, their mission is, turning despair into action. And that's what they did for me. I kind of needed a new home for my activism. And so in 2020, I found them and I just dove in with both feet. And now, here I am on the board of the chapter with Melanie. I founded another and I'm doing this. Yeah. So, and in the meantime, I will just say I've been a filmmaker and in the entertainment industry, theater, film, all of that for years and years. And I ran a vampire film festival years ago. So I had a little experience.
Films
doing
about
film
vampires?
Festival.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
About four vampires.
Little niche. Yeah. But really both, So,
and she might not say it, but she also made a charming horror movie. I guess that's just the way to describe it. It's called Chastity Bites. I'll just say it.
Chastity Bites.
Thank you.
Oh,
yes, it's a horror comedy with a lot of politics and feminism kind of woven into it. So yes,
it's very Lotti. It's very
me. It's true, and that's the thing is, I have been a creator of art for most of my life as well, but more in this sort of performance side, theater and film, like I said. But I feel like my values and my politics have always wormed their way into almost everything I've done that I've created. It's just, I like people in general. People make me angry, of course, at times, but I like people. And I hate that people are so far apart right now.
Yeah.
It honestly breaks my heart. And I know that, Melanie and I know both, we can't change everyone's mind. And so we're not trying to change everyone's mind with this festival, but we do want to bring as many people together who have some similar values about what they want to see happen in this country. They want to see a country where we take care of each other more. We want to see a country where we care about the planet, where healthcare is more accessible to people, that people aren't crushed by healthcare debt or other, And so I feel like right now, until we have more parties in this country to choose from and we can get into finer points of debate, we have to get on the Joe Biden bus, the Democrat bus, and ride it enthusiastically and out of crisis mode and into a better future.
Thank you. One of our little sayings around our world is to wake up, speak up, and stand up. And what I think is great about this is it gives people a chance to do those things. There's been this real sense that for whatever reason, temperament or circumstance or whatever, that people just don't say enough, and there's one tendency is to ask people we disagree with or to demand that people we disagree with be quiet and not say things. Don't have cable television networks. Don't be able to have movies. Don't write things on the internet. I don't think that works. I don't think it's very American. I just think that's not the best pathway forward, and it's not going to be the pathway we're going to take. We're not going to censor, either self-censor or use other forms to censor people. What we need to do is create alternatives and say more things, say better things, right? To have more options and more choices. And a lot of people just feel like they don't, as you said earlier, Melanie, they don't know how to articulate it or how to say it. I hear that a lot from people. They're like, I listen to you all and the work that you do about common good, but I just don't know what to say when someone says this.
Right.
Well, the only way you learn how to say it is to start talking. Right.
Yeah. And people are people. Most of us want the same things. We want to live well. We want to be healthy. We want to have some fun and joy in this life, which we absolutely should. And, the whole thing about me kind of having that duality of California and Missouri in my life and Chicago is I really realized that, I kind of feel like I can talk to anybody and find that common ground, but so many people kind of feel like they want to shut down and not find the common ground, but we're not that different. And also, can we get back to being curious about each other, and learning about each other and enjoying our differences too? But I don't want to go too far afield with that.
No, I don't think that's far afield at all. I think that is super important. One of the people that travels with us and does some of our work and speaks at some of our events, her name is Vanessa Ryerson, and she's an artist and also a pastor. And she's said this publicly, and I love to quote her on this. She was after a number of bad situations in the United States, specifically the shooting in El Paso. She really wanted to speak out, and was saying to herself, but no one's going to listen to me. And then she said to herself, but I haven't said anything yet. So how do I know people aren't going to listen to me? Right. And it was for her this awakening moment where she's like, maybe I need to just get out there. So she's traveled with us on buses around the country and steps out and says, look, this isn't what I normally like to do. I'm not the kind of pastor that likes to stand in front of people. I'm the pastor that likes to be with people and organize and so on. But
so
I need to say something, because just to default into, well, no one's going to listen to me or no one's going to like my thing. Well,
right. It's
that's
not
lovely, that little sound right there. That was perfect. Right on cue. And then at some point the bell goes off and you say to yourself,
I guess it's like putting the brakes on before you even have a chance to put your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, who, me, why would anybody want to hear what I have to say? And I think that's, I feel like in terms of inviting people to do submissions, that's a really big thing that we would love to get across is just, if you have some little hunch in you that you feel like you have something that you could express that would connect with people, give it a try.
Yeah.
There is really nothing to lose, and there's so much more that could potentially be gained from it if you just happen to say something that in fact does connect with people, and that you don't have hay in your head, but you have some really good, solid gold.
I just thought of something else, Melanie, that we should share that I think is relevant as well, which is we did the first event Melanie and I put together for our chapter was an event called Sustaining Joy in Times of Social Change. And a wonderful artist and poet and life coach, and she does a lot of things. Writer, yes, her name's Thea Monnier. She's Melanie's neighbor. She came and gave this wonderful talk about that. And she said something that had been crystallizing for me as I got a little bit older in terms of helping with thinking about things like your friend, the pastor's thought process, and what a lot of people feel, which is kind of this like, oh my God, but I don't know if I'll be heard. I don't know if I can save the world. And Thea said, start with 7 people. Think about reaching 7 people. Because if we all do that, then, it's that ripple effect. And I think that's so important, whether it's having something to say with a video like this, or finding your activist home and your little patch of land, to stand on, is we don't have to have it all on our shoulders. We just need to do our part, and that brings other people in. People see you doing it, and that's just 7 people. Think about it that way, and it's manageable.
Yeah, we have this little campaign that we call the gift of going first, and the idea is that when you go first, you create space for other people. That you stand up and you go out there. I'm from the Midwest, where nobody wants to take the last piece of food off the plate if it's at a shared meal thing, and people like to sit back and wait for someone else. We have that
on the West Coast too.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know it's not. Must be Midwesterners that relocated and brought that with them. And there could be this attitude that people have where they want to just stay back, and sometimes that's the right thing to do, is to stay back or step aside or step down. But sometimes the call is to step out and to even go first and show other people that you're willing to do it. And I would imagine that as much impact will come from these films, these short films, because people did them, even more than what the exact content is, right? Because we're inspired by one another and we're pushed by one another. And that's a thing that feels lacking. It's easy to say to the Republicans, and I do, and I think we all should, hey, you people need to step up and speak out and say something. Like, you just can't let all of this go on. And any given point in the last 5 years, I've had moments where I've said, let's just use this week as an example of something you could speak out on some moral clarity about. It's easy to say that, yell at your television, wonder, write something, think it. And then when the mantle gets passed to you, you see how easy it is to just sort of step back, right? And not say something, or hold off, or not put the work into articulating it. And we're in this, all hands on deck moment, in our nation's history. And people on the fundamentalist conservative right also feel that way. And they're organizing insurrections and takeovers and YouTube channels and all kinds of things, right? It's not that they're not sitting still. And so I really cheer you on for the fact you're giving people an opportunity and a framework in which they can take their contribution, their 3 minutes or less, and contribute it into the mosaic that becomes this larger statement that people are trying to make.
Absolutely.
We really hope so. And we've talked about, there may be certain things about this festival that we'll never know. Well, there might be seeds that are being planted that we'll never know about, but maybe it will inspire some people to just get involved, engaged in different ways that will kind of take and go forward. So a lot of this is sort of an act of blind faith. We brought it together quickly, and we have an idea where we want to go, but kind of who knows where it might go.
Yeah. And even, having this discussion, just with what you said, Doug, I feel like this has now inspired me to make sure that we tell everybody who's entered that their voice is important, whether they're a finalist, whether they win, whether their content is chosen to be paired with a campaign, that the act of doing this is important and inspirational, and they should share their video with the world when all is said and done. So thank you for saying that, because now I may even change a little wording on the website, or I'm going to make sure at least that we have those messages going out on our social media and that sort of thing, because I think that's really important, because I don't want this festival to be like, oh, who's the best? It's not about that. It's about, we are a community and we all are feeling some kind of way, and we all have something to say that we want to put out there. So I want to make sure that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go, I'm done.
I think the whole point of this is that there isn't one best. If there were one best way to say it, I think we would have ground down and tried to figure it out and say it. But there's so many different ways that, as we said, that reach people. I mean, I kind of feel that way about the Academy Awards, to tell you the truth, too.
Yeah.
Like, this is the one best way.
That's right. I do agree.
Kind of minimizes all the others. So.
Yeah. Award ceremonies are funny ways that we organize all of this. Sort of anyway.
True.
But it also motivates people, and it's fun, and I know that, for you all, having finalists and all is just a way to cheer people on, right? It's just it's a way to add some positivity. And look, there's some people, like both of you are artists, you're creative, you're willing to be out in public, you already have been in your lives. There's a lot of people who have never, the idea that they would turn their phone on and even point it at themselves, or they would shoot a video and then ever get to the point where they would hit submit, it is really hard for people to do. So just recognizing that however many submissions come in, it's a really big deal that people will do this. And it's not taking it lightly at all that someone would be willing to put their thing out there and then ask someone to judge it.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
The other thing about the festival, because you were asking for, hard data about it earlier, and I'll add this.
Sure.
We also added I don't know if you want to call it a category or just a pot on the side for people to sort of donate videos who don't want to be in the competition.
Oh, good point.
So some people who have a lot of experience, who feel like, I don't need to be in a competition, and other people who might feel like, okay, I want to make something, but I don't want to, be judged by it. So we have a pot where those can go also. So we're trying to be as inclusive as we can think of how to be. And so we're trying to be kind of live when people make suggestions along the way and incorporate those things as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Well, the website, again, is onedemminute.com, and you can find there, you'll see this image, you'll see the other pieces on there, and you can watch this YouTube video, give you a little flavor of all of this, and have a chance to think about your own submission that you could get together, maybe with a group of people. There's a lot of ways you can make these happen. So consider it. It's super great. And look, maybe we need these even beyond just the period of time when we're living in an election cycle, right? This would be another fun project in the in-between election years to be able to hear from each other. So I hope this one has great success. I hope a lot of Vocom and good people find themselves in the midst of it. And I hope it's as a way to continue on in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing us with your community. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from your community. We'd love to get submissions from your community because, again, we want to be a big tent. The One Dem Minute. We want to be a big tent. So,
and we are honestly grateful for every submission that comes in, because we do know that it takes people energy, not just to make it, but the emotional energy to put themselves out in the world. And we really appreciate it, and we feel connected to anybody who just is able to gather up that much oomph to send something in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Lotti, Melanie, thank you. Really great to be with you today.
Thank you. It's
Appreciate it. Thanks, Doug.
Well, I hope you loved that. I hope it was great. I certainly did. Think about a submission. September 6th is the date. I said 16th, but that's when the festival is going to happen. So September 6th, right around the corner, Labor Day weekend. So it's coming. Get your friends, call your cadres together, get your filmmaking community on the move, and make a little something and submit it. Thanks for being a part of the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with politics, back on Wednesday with faith, talking on Thursday, about all kinds of interesting things. So thanks for being a part of all of this. Head over to votecommongood.com. If you watch this anywhere other than YouTube, thanks. But then head over to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and watch it there. It just helps us in all kinds of important ways. All right. We will see you.